Welcome back to Charting Adventures, a podcast discussing how to level up your TTRPG experiences. I am Kyber, creator of worlds, apparently.
And I am Zari, also creator of worlds. But this podcast is brought to you from the storytellers at Muse and Mythos, your compass for creating unforgettable tabletop journeys.
Anyway, so now we get to the fun stuff.
We are
You've run
jumping.
a pre-written.
Well, let
But
me do the title, so our
yeah,
editor doesn't. He has a place to put the title. But we are talking about how to get rolling on your first session as a DM, part 2, which I'm
yes.
still super proud of that title because I like the
So
fun.
here's where things get interesting. The first time you run a D&D campaign, the sheer amount of stuff to set up a D&D world is daunting. So you probably ran a pre-written. And then you ran a pre-written, and you now understand why it's not the most popular way to do things. They're not flexible. You are now left with two choices. Because I like gradients, and we just talked about running the pre-written last episode, we're going to start with option 1, adapting a pre-written,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm going to let our resident expert in adapting pre-writtens, my co-host here, definitely hasn't been running an adapted pre-written on the channel for like hundreds of hours or at least dozens of hours at this point, depending on when
Yeah,
this episode
we're
comes
at
out.
like episode 20 something times 3-ish. So that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, it's a good game. 60 hours already.
Yeah, yeah.
And you guys are in what? And would you call this still Act 1 or are we more into Act
We've
2 at this
gotten
point?
into. Okay, well, here's the thing. So let's jump into it. There's a couple different gradients for running your pre-written. So there's gradients within gradients here. So you have your typical pre-written campaign. This is running in the like the world that they have established, right? So typically we're gonna use Storm King's Thunder as an example because that's what I'm running. Typically this is run on the Sword Coast, right? In like D&D lore. I don't want to do that. And so I'm doing something completely different. But you're like, we're talking like closest to just running a pre written campaign is written, but you're adapting it. And the way that you adapt it is by adding your characters in, working in like where they are, how they are in the world, letting them have a little bit of agency over like, oh, I'm from a city, blah, blah, blah. This thing happened in the city that drew me out, blah blah blah, and you work it into your world, and you may have to change some stuff in the story, and you may integrate their character stories into the campaign as a whole, which we will talk in the future about, like how to work on a full campaign or how to work on a full arc. So but my point being is, if you're going into your first session, because we're just talking about first sessions today, and you're like, I'm running a pre-written campaign, but I know that I'm going to adapt it, and I know that I'm willing to be flexible about it, and as you should before you start your first session, I've already pre-planned out to an extent. I have an outline about how this full campaign is going to go and how the characters are going to integrate into that. So that's kind of like the base, like the beginner gradient of adapting a campaign. And then there's what I'm doing, which is what I would say the far other side of adapting the campaign, which is I did not I ran the campaign in my world. So I homebrewed a world and I ran the campaign in my world. So the locations are all scrambled, the political stuff is all scrambled, lots of things are different. And then the other thing that I did is I went, Storm King's Thunder is cool. I like the story. I like the giant lords. I love like the BBEG is kind of cool, but needs a little bit more integration. It needs a little bit more sub BBEGs, and so I did. I added those in. I adapted motivations. I added an extra BBEG in. Shush! Don't tell my players, Kenny. You see nothing. Um, and I'm kind of like, I actually skipped the whole first arc of Storm King's Thunder. I did a completely different start than most people do. I started at like chapter 3, I think, or 4. And then I glossed over what should be all of like arc 2. So in Raw, I skipped arc 1. I glossed over arc 2 and I didn't let them sandbox because I didn't want to. And I pushed them to what's considered like arc 3 really fast because that's how I wanted to run the pre-written campaign. And so here's the deal. When you are running a pre-written and you know you're going to adapt it, you're in charge. You get to do what you want to do. If you just want to pull inspiration, you can just pull inspiration. If you want to run it mostly as written, but you just change things to fit into your world or to fit your characters or to fit what your characters want in the campaign, like, absolutely. Please do that. Like, do it however, to whatever extent you want to do. So, that is my little, like, overarching. Let's now focus back in and talk about session 1. So, as I said, you can run session 1 and the first arc of Storm Kings, so as written. So Kyber's like said he's played kind of some of the first arc of Storm Kings, and it's a good, really, really good first arc, actually. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I've listened to a couple podcasts that have like run it as written, and I really like the first arc. It's your typical, very like typical first D&D. Like, you have goblins, you save a city, there's like fun different things that come in. There's like, it starts the intrigue of the giants. And like things like that are really fun. It follows like a very traditional format of like, you're doing something, there's a question, you have a quest, you complete the quest with typical fallbacks, the quest is done, you are rewarded. It has that very typical like arc of a first arc, and so you can just jump right into that for your session 1 if you would like. And as we talked about in part 1 of this two-parter of Rollin for your first session, you should always let your players know how to get to session 1. So what is their character doing, and why are they on the road to the city? Why are they meeting in this tavern? Why are they answering the call to go on this quest from this mayor, etc., etc.? Like, try to help your characters and collaborate with them on why all of the characters are getting to point 1 before you start your session. So, do you have anything to add before I continue to ramble? No. Okay. So now
That's spot on.
Okay. So now I'm gonna ramble. So that kind of like ties a little bit to like how to run a pre-written as a pre-written. Just like as a DM, you're gonna adapt things how you want to adapt things because you're adapting the campaign. So you might introduce, like, you can be like, oh, the mayor might know one of the characters, or oh, you wanted to be a noble. You could be the one giving the quest, but you want to go with them. Right? So, like, you can work with your players and adapt things and adapt the story, give them a little bit more stake in the game. And that is some really, really great ways to adapt a pre-written. Now, let's talk about what I did. As I said, I love the whole first arc of Storm Kings. And you might be looking at, like, a full pre-written campaign, and you're like, I like it. It's boring. I have like for my sake, I handpicked players. They didn't audition. I like have been playing with many of them for years. One of them's my fiance, one of them's my sister, one of them's like my best friend, and the other is like another really close best friend. And then like all of the people who I'm bringing in as guests are Kyber, one of my best friends, and a lot of other players that I've played with. And so here's the thing. I knew that they wanted, and I wanted to run a very different Storm King's Thunder. I wanted to run something that was really high stakes, that talked about fate, that talked about cities being destroyed. Like, I built this world and I'm going to destroy it, potentially, if they don't do what they're supposed to do. This could be a full destruction of the world as is. There's that potential, and I wanted that to be clear from session 1. The first arc in Storm King's Thunder does not do that. At all. And like, it's great first arc, very typical, especially if you have a bunch of brand new players. But for a group of really advanced players who've been playing for years, who are really good at roleplay, who built really in-depth characters with deep ties to the world, and I made it very deep ties to the story, that's not the way to go. And so I was like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. And the moment that I gave myself permission to like give up running the book as the book, even though I was running it in my own world, a really cool story blossomed. I was like, I want to, because I'm adapting this for content, I want to introduce each of the players individually. And so I ran, spoilers for Storm King's Thunder and Rise of the Ordning, I guess. I ran the city raids, and you're supposed to only pick one in Storm King's Thunder, where they like go to a city and there's a giant raid. And that's like where it really starts to get high stakes and there's giants, right, in Storm King's Thunder. Count how many times I say Storm King's Thunder in this, I guess, as I ramble. And so rather than having all of the players be together for that, I ran it separately. And so, first of all, a little ambitious to run something that is balanced for a full party for an individual or a duo. I had one duo. But it's fine. Nobody died. It's cool. But it was really cool because it introduced a very high stakes part to it. I did a whole bunch of like different ways to do it. So for my barbarian character, I let her fight. I gave her a whole bunch of NPCs that came and went and were like intrigued and part of the story, and like gave her a little bit of like a world placement. I let her fight through the whole thing. It worked out well because she was fighting goblins, hobgoblins, and hill giants. Like, those are a level 3 player, a level 5 player can handle that. I think they're level 5 when they started. For my duo, their fight was a lot more high stakes because there was 2 of them, and it worked out because they were fighting the fire giants, which was beautiful because the fire giants, of all of the giants you can encounter, they're a little high CR. I'm not gonna lie, I was like writing it and I was like, I'm sweating a little bit, and then I'm like, you know what? The people in my duo, one of them is Shorty, who is Nyx's player, and Shorty is known, especially when playing a spellcaster, for like, I balance up for him. Whenever he's in my party and playing a spellcaster, I balance up. So he's a phenomenal combat player. And so I was like, it'll be fine. And then when it came to having the third group, which was my wizard druid, who's very squishy, I was like, I'm not having her fight her way through this. I'm not having her fight her way through this at all. I'm going to do a chase scene. I'm going to have different tiers, and I turned it into a mini game, and it was a choice scene. If I do this choice and this choice, something's gonna happen later on. It was straight up like Until Dawn, which way do you go? Type like choice scene, and it was really cool, especially because that character has a lot of plays and ties to fate and choices and dreams, and so it was really fun to like play off of that and play into that character. And so then again, I have a dynamic cold opening for each character for their start. Like, essentially it started with a dream, and then the giants are attacking. They don't even know where they are. They know nothing as players, but their characters do. And so it's fun to like do little flashbacks and cold open throughout of all of that, and it was a really cool way to storytell. And all of that was because I chose to not start the campaign at page 1. I chose to start the campaign at page like 50, because I'm in charge. I get to do what I want to do. And I took the framework and I created my own story out of it. You look like you wanted to say something.
I did.
Yes.
I'm going to introduce our new favorite trope. If communication is like the foundation of everything, the first building block is rule 0. At the end of the day, the DM gets final say.
Mm-hmm.
Not the rule books, not the original writers of the story, not Reddit, not your friend Steve on YouTube.
Not even the people who wrote
table.
it. Wizards of the Coast, Jeremy Crawford's tweeters. tweets.
English is a stupid language.
Nailed it. Like, you, the DM, have the final say. And I, the DM, went, I don't want to do that. It's cool. It's great. If I was running a whole different group, I would 110% have ran the first arc. I would have ran the second arc as it was. But because that wasn't my group, that's not the story I wanted to tell, I did something fully different. And I know that we were like talking about a very specific example during that whole section, and I know that I was rambling. Thank you for allowing me to ramble. I appreciate it. And was really excited and passionate about it. But my point being, and you may disagree with me, but that's the point. Rule 0. You're the DM. You have the final say. You get to choose how you want to choose. How on the spectrum do you want to run your pre-written? Do you want to follow it mostly but just integrate some fun little player bits? Do you want to follow it partially and like add a lot of your own world building? This is Sword Coast adjacent. Do you want to like run in your homebrew world? Do you want to like, how you get to pick? You can do it however you want to do it. My only encouragement, and we're gonna get to this when we talk about next episode, we're going to talk about writing your own homebrew arc. We're going to kind of get into it in this next part too here, but my whole point being is just make sure that you have in your brain, as I keep saying, you've read through your whole campaign or you've outlined your whole campaign so that you know what your main themes are. And the first arc and the first session, it is very important to point towards your main themes, even if it's like really, really subtle. And that's just good storytelling. And don't be afraid about that though. Like, if you're a new DM and you're like, how do I do that? What is that? The beauty of running a pre-written is it'll do that for you. And if it's not doing that for you, like that, and it's not the theme or the story you want to tell and you're inspired by a different thing, then you're allowed to change it. That is my point. Okay.
Yes.
So we can move on to part 2.
My turn to go on a ramble.
Yes, it is now Kyber's turn to go on a ramble. So we are talking. We're gonna let Kyber ramble for a moment, but we are talking very specifically in this part about how to get ready for session 1 and be prepared as a DM for session 1 and write for session 1 if you are running a homebrew. Take it away.
So, admittedly, there's going to be a lot of what I say that is part of building whole arcs, building whole campaigns, but it's also going to apply to writing in general. I mean, when you're doing world building, the concepts are kind of be similar, whether you're writing a TTRPG, a book, a show, whatever. You want your world to have the appearance of a complete world, even though you have not personally zoomed into every corner of every pixel and filled it in by hand. So some good ways to do that are to start with, where are the players starting? In a recent campaign that let me go back in time and pick a campaign that I'm not currently about to run and accidentally give away spoilers to someone who might be in the room for it.
It's not me.
At one point, I was running a table of experienced players. There were 4 players, and I wanted to do something fun. It is not common in D&D that you get to play a character that's above like level 16 or 17.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So I told my players, here's what you're going to do. You're going to bring your level 3 character sheet, which is what we're actually starting as. But I want you to bring a level 20 character sheet.
Of the same character?
Yes.
Oh.
So we started at the end of the campaign.
That's so cool!
You're going to recognize this premise too,
yep.
And you're going to hate me for it. I was playing a DMPC, a Clockwork Soul Sorcerer. You can see based on Zari's visual reaction, she already knows where I'm going with this. I, on purpose, created this boss that mechanically is completely unbalanced. I'm talking like immunity to most magic types, immunity to most non-magical weapon damage, like borderline untouchable, decked out in magic and cursed equipment. This boss is a calamity. The idea is this is meant to be the end, and these players were not supposed to be able to beat him. And what a shock. Because I gave him literal game breaking items, they weren't able to beat him. Because that was the point.
Mm-hmm.
It was a meant to lose fight that then my Clockwork Soul character, who was never supposed to be in the campaign anyway, sends them all back in time to their level 3 bodies. And that's where the campaigns start. Is they wake up the day after their initiation into the adventurers guild, and they're hungover from the party, when really they're having headaches from 20 additional levels of like memories being shoved into their level 3 brains.
Oh.
Um, and so they know that this big bad is coming. They know that he has magical equipment that he like fished out of these ancient ruins and no one knew about until he was already too powerful to stop. So now they're going on a quest to all of these old ruins, and they have a reason to go to the places that I've said there are relics at, to stop them from existing, to stop the bad from having them, and either keep them for themselves, destroy them, depending on what the relic is. Um, and that got the players super hooked into the story because now they had a personal investment. They had a character that, admittedly, they only had a few hours with, so it wasn't like the best start. It would have been better if I had, played the whole campaign with them first and then intentionally reset the whole campaign. But um, the idea is this: when you create a world, you have to make it feel lived in, right? So I'm going to use prestidigitation as an easy example. If prestidigitation exists and is an efficient way of sort of cleaning small chunks of things outside of bulk and like big sheets and stuff, why doesn't the D&D world stink? Prestidigitation. It, you're traveling for 5 days on the road. Why don't you smell terrible? Prestidigitation. It's not as good as a shower. Like you'll still feel a little weird about it, but at least then you don't smell like you slept on the road for 5 days. It's a common like story trope that these adventurers go on these long epic quests and they're camping the whole time. I don't know if you guys have been camping, like actual camping.
Nope. Hard pass in terms of,
Yeah,
well, okay, that's a lie. I love camping and I love actual camping, but like you get so
yeah,
gross. You're
yeah, like
prepared to get gross.
yes. And so how do you take advantage of a magic system that is so open-ended like D&D and create a world that is believable in that? Um, Critical Role gets a lot of props for that because they lean into the bit. They lean into a lot of the stereotypes of fantasy, and it works well for their storytelling style.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to tell something more gritty or something more grounded, air quotes, um, then maybe you go with a setting that either it's in a cursed land where magic doesn't always work right, or maybe somehow your character is special in that your magic is unaffected by this curse for some reason that you get to explore. It could be a dozen things. One setting that I established recently, I created a city called Celeste. In this world, I created 3 moons, or sorry, 2 moons and a sun. Um, one moon is what's called geosynchronous. Basically, it orbits at the same speed that the planet rotates.
Hmm.
So it's always directly above one spot.
Hmm.
And in the shadow of that moon, they built the city of Celeste.
That's pretty cool.
And there are 3 major religions, one for the sun, one for the moon of Celeste, and one for the other moon. Uh, and in the religion, these 3 are sisters, and it's this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had a map, an interactive map that I made with every single building named and I had NPCs named with little snippets for every building.
Why?
I am going to teach you the importance of not over preparing now
Oh.
because I spent 12 hours assembling that interactive map so I could use it on my laptop. So I could kind of say, oh, you popped into this store. Here's who's there. Here's their name. Here's what they look like.
Mhm.
And then my players proceeded to immediately take a left on the highway and ditch the city of Celeste for like the first 4 sessions. So, DMs, here's my advice to you. You want to give the illusion of a world. You don't need to zoom in to the pixel level like I did and fully color every single thing. That's just not realistic.
Mm-mm.
You need to have the broad strokes figured out. Oh, there's this kingdom over here. This kingdom generally has this type of culture. Or this has a king. This one is a republic. This one is a dictatorship. This one is a technocracy or whatever. Pick your government, whatever. But why? Oh, I went to this city and this city state is basically just a church. Okay, why is that city state whole just one religion? It's the Holy Land. It's directly under the moon. That makes sense. In my world, it did make sense. In a religion based on worshiping this stationary moon, perhaps building a city directly under that moon to worship it would track. Silly little questions like this as you build your world. Not only what is there, but why does it matter?
And as Kyber was...
And,
Oh, go ahead. Finish.
sorry, this is going to be a ramble. If you want to put in your
I'm
two
gonna put
cents,
in
have
my
the
two
time.
cents then. So I'm going back to the whole don't color in every pixel. I'm also running in a homebrew world, and I built my world. I built my world. I've been running mini campaigns in it. I don't have every little thing of every little part. I don't have all the cities named. I focused on where my players are going to be, what's going to be important there. So I have bullet points for all the relevant information, and I have that available to the players. But you focus on where you're going to be and spend your energy on where you're going to be. Worry about it when it's relevant. So that way, when you have a player that comes to you and says, hi, I really like this church. I really want to be a secret assassin in this church. You have the ability to go, ooh, I haven't thought about that. I haven't built out that area. That's kind of cool. Let's do it. Why does it make sense? And you bounce off and you collaborate on it. And then that way, what's really fun, this isn't going to work for this campaign because Kyber's just a guest character, but like you are being able to integrate your players in by being a little bit more flexible, and allowing them to bounce off in the character creation process. But also when you are writing, you can focus on arc by arc. So you're not overwhelmed of, I need to build this whole world, unless you're really excited about it and want to do that. Please do. But we're just talking about session 1. We're just talking about the first arc next episode. So what do you need to be able to be specific about that first arc is the question that you should be asking yourself. Yes, I'm going to be alluding to the main themes. Yes, they should have that sense in the first arc. Like Kyber was talking about his level 20 that dropped to level 3. What is the main theme? The main theme is this like really intense messing with time, this super long like what story do you want to tell? You should know by session 1. However, being flexible and not coloring in every pixel, I love that analogy, I'm going to keep using it, allows you to be able to tell a collaborative story. Because when you go back to what is a TTRPG as a whole, it's not your story. If you want to tell a story as a DM, go write a book. I've played with DMs that should just go write books. I've fired a DM from a group. It was a group that I was kind of in charge of and one of the main DMs. And we pulled in another DM just to DM one campaign for a whole bunch of people because we all wanted to play. And he just wanted to write a book. He did not want us to interact with the world at all or influence the world at all. And it was a kind of a bad experience because of that. Phenomenal writer, great world, cool story, not a good DM. And so just a little bit reminder, it is a collaborative world. You are telling a collaborative story. And if you want to write a book, please do. I'm writing a book. But my point being, by filling in all of those pixels, it makes it very rigid. And even pre-written campaigns don't have all those pixels filled in. They allow you to adapt and to move and to change and grow and shift depending on what you and your players want to do. And so think about that as you're writing your homebrew campaign and as you're writing your homebrew first arc, because the first arc sets the tone for the whole campaign, and as you are getting ready for your first session. So, with that being said, which was, I think, kind of just adding on to that point that you were trying to make there, but I know you had one other thing that you wanted to talk about, so I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah. So, okay, as part of your player's backstory, you're supposed to have them ending at the beginning of session 1. I've seen that done in what you've described with a series of one-on-one sessions that gets them to wherever session 1 as a group is supposed to start. I've participated in that particular play style and I enjoyed it. It's not a bad option.
Or you're just like
Where
telling,
you start is important.
or you're just like telling your players, hey, as you're like thinking through your backstory, why are you here? Just make sure you know that.
Yes.
So that's option 2 if you don't want to run one-on-one sessions.
Yeah, and you don't have to run one-on-ones. It's time consuming. The importance is the players get to the table at the beginning of session 1. They're like, okay, I know I'm here. I have a reason to be here. Cool. And then you, as the DM, get to arbitrarily say, for some reason or another, the party gets partied up. It could be they were going to some big guild combat exam. They're trying to get sponsored by the kingdom. And so they get arbitrarily grouped together because there's a group event. And then more drama happens and like a crime happens and now they're stuck together for some reason or another. It could be 1,000 reasons why they're stuck together. It could be they find they're chosen by fate. It could be random coincidence. It doesn't have to be always every time you are chosen, you are the fated ones. Yes, that does appeal. I get it. But there's also the ability to go, okay, we were all in the room when someone kicked in the door and shot the king. We're the only witnesses, and now that we have been accused of it, we need to go find the real killer.
Or
that is just as interesting a hook.
Or you could even do something such as, let's go super basic bitch. We're all in a tavern. Somebody comes in and says, oh my gosh, the daughter of the mayor got kidnapped by goblins. I need people who are gonna help. Your players are gonna be like, I'll help, unless they're dicks. And if they are dicks, give them a reason. Know your character's motivations. So the rogue who wants to play the lone wolf character that you were really iffy about, what's their motivation? Ask them. Challenge them. So what is going to be your motivation to continue to travel with the group? It can be money. It can be as simple as money. And be like, I'm willing to give out 100 gold and a magic item to anybody who is going to go save this mayor's daughter. That's nothing to sneeze at for like level 1 or level 3 characters. That's a lot. So knowing your character's motivations and knowing why they are going to want to be put on your first arc is going to be what you need to do there. Or it can be one of the other things like Kyber says. Or it could be they're all in a jail. Play it Elder Scrolls style. You always start in a jail. Or I've done...
Wake up. You're finally awake.
Right. Or another really fun start to a campaign I did is I told them ahead of time. I said, hey, you guys are part of a guild. You're a group. So your job is to tell me, why are you a part of the guild? And to decide what your relationship with some of the other players are. I had them introduce themselves ahead of time. And so when I started session 1, they already technically knew each other, even though they haven't like role played together before. And I did a reverse dungeon. I had them walk through this dungeon with all the traps triggered, and then I Indiana Jones and ran their way out. And it was a really fun session 1 because I had already established what is their motivation. Their motivation to start this like little arc 1 is we already know each other and we're on a mission of our guild. So you're allowed to and this is all stuff that you should be talking about in session 0, so you should know how you want to start session 1 and session 0, so that when they come and they say, hey, I have a character idea, you say, perfect. Your character needs to somehow end up in this guild, or your character needs to somehow end up in this tavern in this city. And that's part of how to start and what you should be working out ahead of time.
Yes. I have no notes. That is all of the brain cells that are in my brain.
So we were kind of talking, we got a little very overview of what information you need to know in order to get rolling on your first session. And we talked last episode a little bit about what you should have your players prepared for. We talked a little bit about how to run pre-writtens. We talked this episode how to run adapted pre-writtens, and we talked about how to run a homebrew. So we're gonna expand a little bit next episode. We're gonna continue this because we've been kind of building up through all of these episodes. If this is the first episode you're tuning into, hi, welcome. But we've been building up on like how to start campaigns, right? We've talked about like how to roll for characters. We've talked about what you should cover in session 0s. We've talked about what type of people you should like get in with, and finding your players and making sure that you are continuing to communicate. Please, for the love of everything holy, communicate. But next time we're going to talk about like how to actually write your first arc for a homebrew campaign. So if that's your jam, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notifications. And let us know down in the comment section. This is your homework. What is your favorite way to start a campaign? Whether it be like your favorite pre-written that you've done before, or your all-time favorite, like I love starting the campaign this way. What is your favorite like opening scene that you've ever had? Or if it's not an opening scene, your favorite way to start, I don't care. But let us know in the comment section. I'd say my favorite personally was what I did for Rise of the Ordning, which was the cold open, the dream into the like giants are fucking attacking, you better run. So that was one of my favorites.
I dig that. I dig the playing the session 0.5 into the session 1. That has been enjoyable, and I think I'm going to continue to do that now that I've experienced it. But to me, something that feels normal for the world, where it starts pretty flat. Because to me, top of the hero's journey, right? The world is normal. Then something happens. That's the inciting incident. For me, I enjoy that.
You like making the chill, like I'm chilling in my hobbit hole eating my food. Like honestly, it's so nostalgic.
30 minutes of that.
It's just so nostalgic. And I understand that. So with that being said, as we said, let us know in the comment section what your favorite way to start a campaign is. And make sure you subscribe and all of that. But if you want to see some D&D campaign content, I know we talked about it a lot that I'm running Rise of the Ordning, or if you want to go watch that like fun opening of the reverse dungeon that actually was in my Artifact of the Tomb mini campaign, which is also on YouTube. So a couple of different options there, just saying. And if you want to play in some really fun ones that have really fun openings and also really fun mini campaigns or one-shots, head on over to musesmythos.com. Links are in the description below for all of our socials. If you want to watch clips of this or clips of Rise of the Ordning, head on over to TikTok, etc. And yeah.
And if you do have any additional thoughts, as always, just drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear them. We are only 2 people. If there are things you're like, ooh, this is a great idea, pass it along. We'll bring it up. Beyond that, leave a like as always if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment if you like us. Repost it if you really like us. And we'll be here if you have any follow-up questions. And as always,
keep your compass true.